post them. So fatty liver disease, an epidemic. There are people in this room who have been diagnosed with fatty liver disease, and this talk is for you. So what does the liver do? It's called the great purifier. The largest solid organ in the body. If you think about a football, it's about that size. It starts up here under your rib cage, comes all the way down in through here. Okay, this is where the liver is. You can actually feel your liver if you push up underneath. People who have disease of the liver, it becomes quite enlarged. It has many responsibilities. First, it filters our blood and removes toxins from our blood. It produces the protein albumin from the amino acids that we consume. Albumin is essential in our bloodstream. Are you going to help us out?
Are we closing blinds?
Yes, please, thank you. It produces bile that goes into our gallbladder to help aid in digestion. It regulates our blood clotting, so people who have liver disease eventually are unable to clot their blood correctly. It stores essential vitamins and minerals, including iron. Our iron stores are in our liver. Thank you very much. And then the part we're going to talk about tonight is it processes fructose and glucose. So here's two pictures. One over here is a healthy liver. This is what all of our livers looked like when we were kids. The one opposite that is early fatty liver disease. You ask any general surgeon who's in taking someone's gallbladder out or something like that, and they see this picture all too common. Approximately 25% of American adults have some form of fatty liver disease. That's 1 out of 4. This is the process of developing liver disease. First, fatty liver, then fibrosis, which is scarring, then cirrhosis, which is complete loss of function of the liver, and then about 2% of people with cirrhosis will actually develop cancer of the liver. This is a graph similar to the graph that we saw in trends of diabetes, but incidence per 100,000 patients of how common it has come, even just in the past 15 to 20 years, an increase of 10-fold. And yes, sugar does get turned into fat. So now we're going to talk about a different molecule, the molecule called fructose. All of the discussions that we've had so far is about glucose. So now we're going to talk about fructose. Sorry, I'm making it more complicated. So sugar in our food contain both fructose and glucose. This is something that most people don't realize. So sucrose up on top, that's sugar. It is combined by an oxygen. When we consume, that oxygen is broken and it is converted into both glucose and fructose. You've probably seen some type of display like this. All of the hundreds of names that that sugar is labeled as on our food products. But guess what? Every single one of these is sugar. Even if it says organic cane sugar, guess what? It's still sugar. And there are many of the things that we consume that are not just high in glucose, but that are very high in fructose. Look at number one of the common things that we drink. It's grape juice, but I'm going to include all fruit juices. 9 teaspoons of fructose in a 16-ounce glass of juice. 9 teaspoons, think about that. When you go and get a bottle of Coke, 7 teaspoons of fructose. This is not counting glucose, by the way. Fructose. Dried fruit. Pears are very high in fructose. Honey is high in fructose, and yes, even yogurt is high in fructose because it's sweetened. So if you look at the amount of glucose and fructose in different products, you will notice that it's about a 50-50 split. What's interesting is your fruits are going to be higher on the fructose category than the glucose category. Now, fruit in and of themselves are not bad, and you will see why in a moment, but it's the excessive consumption of these foods that is the problem. I want to talk to you about absorption. So here's one slide for anatomy class. Absorption is the process of different molecules of the things that we eat going into our gut and getting absorbed into the bloodstream. So number one, the small intestine absorbs the products of digestion. That material goes across the wall at a cellular level into the bloodstream and travel up this big giant vein into the liver. The liver monitors what's there, and then what it doesn't take or need, it goes up and out to the heart to get pumped to the rest of the body. The pancreas is not in this picture, but the pancreas is right next to all of these organs, secreting insulin into the system as well. But we're just going to talk about what happens when you eat this cookie. I'm not going to tell you what kind of cookie that is, but you can probably guess. When you eat this cookie, it is broken down within minutes into glucose and fructose. Glucose goes into the bloodstream and goes to the different cells of the body to be used. Fructose goes directly to the liver. The liver is a fructose magnet. Within 10 to 20 minutes of consuming a high fructose meal, much of it has already entered the liver. Fructose is converted to glycogen, where it can easily be stored and packaged for later use as a form of energy. You've heard about athletes doing carb loading. Well, truly what they're doing is fructose loading or glycogen loading, okay? So glycogen are these pieces of fructose joined together that can be easily used when energy is needed. However, if there is excess fructose after glycogen stores are full, the liver converts the rest of the fructose into two things: triglycerides that enter our bloodstream and fat cells. It actually makes new fat. A new cell is created out of fructose. I need you to understand that again. That fat cell was not there when you were born. A new fat cell is produced in the liver. So when I check your blood and you have high triglycerides, I know it's because you have had too much fructose, okay? Remember, glycogen storage is full. That means it's not getting used. Triglycerides and fat is produced. So high triglycerides and fatty liver are directly caused by excess fructose consumption. And remember, fructose only comes from certain foods, okay? Anything with sugar, any kind of fruit. Hate to say it. Over time, these new fat cells that I was talking about, they start invading the space of healthy liver cells. Fatty liver disease begins to develop over months and years of excess fructose consumption. And these fat cells start pushing on the liver. The liver starts to enlarge. Now, if we remember what Dr. Bickman taught, What happens to fat cells when insulin is introduced? They grow. High insulin states from continued high carbohydrate consumption cause these fat cells to enlarge and eventually overtake the liver entirely. This is how fatty liver disease develops. Initially high fructose, then high glucose and high insulin levels causing them to grow. So in conclusion, fatty liver disease occurs from the combination of excess fructose consumption and high insulin states. Scarring occurs as liver cells die due to overcrowding and high inflammation from excess sugar. Scarring may lead to cirrhosis and eventually liver failure. Hate to say it, but fructose is our enemy. More and more data is suggesting that this one molecule, more than any other molecule that we consume, is killing us in our country. This study was done in a metabolic health journal. It is now generally thought that increased consumption of added sugar, in particular fructose sweeteners, is one of the major underlying causes of chronic metabolic diseases, including obesity, insulin resistance, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. So you'll never guess how fatty liver disease can be reversed. And I'm going to suggest that it can. So if you have fatty liver disease, listen up. There it is, one picture, the same stuff we've been talking about. Exercise, reduction in carbohydrates. We need to get our insulin down. Healthy fats. It is a myth that fatty liver disease is caused by fat intake. Healthy fats, especially, and studies have shown this, olive oil, fish, avocado, fiber, nuts. These two things over here, get rid of alcohol because alcohol potentiates the development of liver disease, and then the other picture, vitamins and fiber. But exercise and weight reduction helps as well. I did not put this in the slide, but one thing that we use a lot in our clinic is something called a fibroscan, which can measure the amount of fat in the liver as well as the amount of scarring that's in the liver. And we have seen with many patients that as they do carbohydrate-restricted diet, they're able to reduce the amount of fatty liver